folks. I said that we were going to have a Facebook Live at 8 o'clock, and we're just coming up to the top of the hour, so I thought I would just make sure that my stream was up and alive, and you know that I've actually shown up for you. I hope you're taking this moment to get a pad of paper and a pen and think about your questions, get yourself a cup of coffee, get the kids settled away, because we've got a nice opportunity here to have a community chat starting at 8 o'clock. So come join me. Bring your questions. We're going to be talking about issues that have come up for you around back to school. Can you believe it? September 13th. I can't stand it. Hey, Judy. Judy's an old friend from Aurora. How are you? And a great little community fundraiser, by the way. So yes, say hi. I will be going over how the event's going to go here. But as you know, with every Facebook Live, this really is about community, and it's about us having an opportunity to chat. Not only just you being able to ask questions and have a dialogue between myself and you folks, but also for you to post questions and talk amongst yourselves. And, you know, it's September. It's a big time of year. All families are making a big transition. It always feels like New Year's for me when September rolls around. So no doubt there is the topical issues that people want to talk about. And, of course, I do have some prepared topic items as well, but please use the comment field below and share your questions. I'm here with Catherine. Say hi, Catherine. Nice and hey, Catherine's here. She's so quiet spoken. I'm the shouter of the group. Anyways, she's my extra set of eyes, and she's watching your comments so that we have an opportunity to put up resources and links, and she can feed me your questions at the end, and we can see what's kind of theming and trending so that we make sure that we get the most important information covered. So thank you very much for showing up. We're at 8 o'clock now. I want to be true to my word. So here's how this is going to go this evening. This is actually the second in a series of Facebook talks that I am doing that are based on my Family Talk series, which is a video series on my YouTube channel. It's an educational opportunity to help parents prevent underage drinking. And so we know that there are certain times that are more strategic for talking to our kids and using effective parenting strategies. And certainly when we are sending our kids off to school, whether you're starting to look at campuses and your kids are talking about the party campuses, whether they're trying to get in with the in-group in high school, or whether they're actually like off at residence for the first time and you're really not able to supervise them the way that you did before. It's a key time for us to step up and take our role and responsibility seriously about that part of our parenting job to keep our kids safe from breaking the law and drinking underage. So I'm going to talk about the 5 important strategies and tips that I have that right now is topical for us to have a conversation going with our kids and make sure that each of us ticks off and gets those 5 conversation pieces happening. After I go over those 5 points, then I'm going to open for questions and answers on any of your back to school topics. And then just so you know, there's another great opportunity, which is that for anybody who would be willing to give us feedback in a survey form, your name will be put in a draw. And there is a opportunity for first 100 people to complete that survey. Then there's an opportunity to win a $250 Visa gift card. So yay for that. And although that's only open for Canadian people participating today, anybody that puts a comment or asks a question in the comment field, your name will also be entered in for a $50 Amazon gift card. So there you go. We want to show the love for you, showing the love back to us for your help and participation, letting us know how we're doing with this information. So I super, super appreciate it. It means a lot to me. So let's get started. Hey, Michelle, how are you? I love seeing friends' names when I'm talking, because then I don't feel like I'm so alone and just talking to a screen. So let's start off with these 5 points, the 5 most crucial ones that I think need to be happening around September, especially when we've got our kids that are being sent off to university. And I mean, it's a very exciting time. It's exciting for us because we know it's a big milestone in the maturation of our children. It's a step of theirs towards adulthood. And no doubt they are going to be very excited about their new autonomy, their new freedom, and they do have that sense that they are very adult. Now, we also have some mixed feelings about that, because it means that in the past we have been able to be more helpful and more hands-on with our parenting, and now we've got these kids that are away and afar, and there's got to be a shift. There's got to be a shift in our parenting. What I would like to encourage parents to realize is that shift needs to come from us, so that we know that we are not going to use control and micromanaging as our methodologies, but that in fact, when our kids are far away, we still have a tremendous amount of influence. We are not inert and inept in our parenting, even though our kids are far away. That in fact, we still have ways that we can give them information and stay in touch and use the power of the relationship to show them that we have faith in them, to show them that we expect them to live up to our expectations. And so even though they're far away, relationships cross all kinds of times and borders. So I think one of the first pieces that we want to say is, hey, great, you know, you're going to be an adult, you're going to be off in this campus, but I think we need to make sure that we've got enough information that you understand what the campus policies are. Because a lot of kids will just have the bottom line, I know, I'm a minor, I'm not allowed to drink, and they just cut it off there. They think that's the only policy. But when we actually hear a lot of the stories where kids ended up getting themselves into trouble, a lot of it came from just ignorance of the policies of the campus. So do not assume that your kids know, or do not assume that that simplistic don't drink on campus is going to be sufficient. That in fact, one of the, and just giving some examples that have been brought to my attention, when you're on campus, in a sense, the university is now playing in the role of kind of guardian for your well-being, and they take that role very responsibly. So the consequences may be much harsher than it would be if you were a minor, even in your own home with your own parents. So you might say, okay, well, we know that there's no drinking allowed in the dorms, and we know that you're not allowed to have alcohol in your room. But what happens when you go off campus and people end up partying at a house party and they walk home across the campus and they're intoxicated? Many universities, a policy can be that if campus security stops you and you are intoxicated on their ground and you are a student in that university, they can apply consequences that could include things as severe as missing school, so that if that falls at a time of year where you're doing your exams, they don't care. If you've now been expelled and you can't attend classes for a week and you miss a midterm, that could be the difference between you passing or failing a certain class. That there may be many people that are on, for example, varsity teams, and the varsity team has a requirement that you have to have no infractions with the school, that if you're caught drunk on campus or drinking on campus or breaking one of their alcohol rules on campus, you're kicked off from the varsity team. This is devastating for kids who may not have known that this was going to be a consequence for their decisions. We've seen people that were like celebrating with champagne because they were all excited that they got into university, only to find, thinking that this was like not partying, getting drunk, but this was just sort of a classy toast to being accepted for a scholarship, only to find out that the scholarship got canceled because they were drinking on campus, and that was considered reason for a scholarship to be null and void. So I don't think that we can just assume that our kids know all the nuances of what could go wrong. So again, we don't need to say it in a way that is wagging the finger or judgmental. It's really about education. That's we just want to make sure they have their eyes open so that they're not taken out at the knees and have some mishap that they feel terribly, terribly remorseful for, because the consequences can be quite great. So just saying, hey, let's go over things so that you don't get yourself stuck in a terrible situation that you resent. So this is September. This is the time to go over all that stuff. So tick list number 1, review those campus policies. Number 2, again, review your own policies, which is, yes, you're away, and we know that there's going to be alcohol around because that's just a reality of life. And just because you're away at home, I want you to know we still trust you without our supervision to make good decisions for yourself. And because we believe that our family values are such that we're law-abiding, in the place where you're going to university, you're still below the minor drinking age. That is a law. Drinking when you're underage is against the law, and we trust you to be a law-abiding citizen. And just to review that with them, so that you're showing trust, you're showing faith. You know, you can be empathetic to the fact that they will be exposed. That's very, very true. It's going to be kicking around. But rather than fearing that they're going to have a mishap, we just want to say, you know, you got this thing covered. You know what a great kid you are. You know where our family stands on this particular policy. And showing that trust to kids, I'll tell you something, that's what they really want to hear. Are they going to make mistakes? Are they going to test limits and boundaries? Absolutely. But what we end up hearing from kids time and time again is they say, the reason why I made choices to not drink underage when the bottle was going around was that I really loved my parents. I really liked them holding me in high regard. I really did not want to disappoint them. And the research shows this again and again. So let them know. Let them know that you have that faith and trust in them. That really does go a far way in changing children's behavior. So don't throw away that important piece of relationship card that you've got to help our kids stay safe and prevent underage drinking. So use that one. So the third one is about, feeling connected on campus, because the truth is, going off to university is a huge adjustment period. It is like arriving on a different planet. It's like learning an entire new language. Like suddenly you're away from home. You might be in a residence where you have co-ed showers, and like, how does that go in the morning? You're just going to sit there and shave while a girl's in the shower. There is so much. When does the bookstore close? How am I going to get to campus? There's so much to take on in that first year. And it's very easy for kids to potentially feel lost on campus with just so much going on, that they've moved from maybe a high school or a town where they knew a lot of people, they knew the rituals of their town, they felt very embedded in their community, and now suddenly they got to start all over again. And that isolation and that loneliness and that feeling foreign and other can be enough to create enough stress that kids may turn to alcohol as a way of reducing their stress. It may mean that they just turn around and emulate whatever is going on around them in terms of their peers, just as a simple way to get in. So I think it's important that we say to kids, not all of university socializing is like frat parties like we see in the television shows and in the movies. That in fact, there's an entire other part of campus life that doesn't get the same sexy media coverage that they might not know about. But what universities tend to be very good at, and colleges, is they want kids, they know that we're social creatures and need to be embedded. And so they create all these incredible interest groups. And so there are photography clubs, and there are cross-country clubs, and there are clubs for badminton. It doesn't all have to be varsity sports. At a lot of universities, if you can find 2 other people and you go to the student activity office, you can say, we'd like to start a Harry Potter club, or we'd like to start, inner tube badminton in the swimming pool. You get enough people, they will actually get you organized as a group. So I think it's important that we encourage our kids to say, you need to get in there and get connected. And if the people that are in their dorm are not their type of people, or they're drinking people, we got to plug them into another social group. That's a protective factor for depression, for stress. It will change their university experience. And if you're hanging around with a group of people that are more interested in having fun with Harry Potter than they are in tipping a bottle, your kid's going to be much more likely safeguarded against drinking underage. But really encourage them to find their people so that they feel like they are authentically themselves and plugged in, and really get the maximum enjoyment of that experience. It's such a big part of the college and university experience. But they may need a little hand-holding. They may need a little encouragement and poke them in the right direction. The other thing is practicing ways to say no, because again, like I said, I think we'd be naive to say, as much as we restate our expectations, restate our values and our faith and trust in them, I think we also just have to be very realistic that they're going to be put in situations where without a plan in place, it's very easy to just, the bottle came around, I didn't know what to do. I couldn't think on my feet. So let's be proactive about that. What would be a comfortable thing for you to say, to be able to say no when that bottle comes around, so that you can save face with your friends? What feels genuine to you? You don't necessarily have to lie, but it's got to be real. And, and it might be, listen, I don't want to put on the freshman 15. I'm cutting down on that stuff. Or, I'm here because I've got a big tryout tomorrow. Sports is a big part of why I came to this campus, and I don't want to flub it by partying tonight. Or, this is my 3rd night out late. I don't want to be tired in the morning. Or, I'm taking medication for my sinuses. I got ragweed. I don't want to mix. I don't know what it is, but don't ask kids to think of it in the spot. It's about having that reply in your back pocket, so that when they've got that response, boom, they can toss that out, and it's like, whoo, there you go, bullet averted. And even if it's just saying that, hey, listen, my parents are calling me at 11 o'clock, I got to be back, and have you met my mom? She's going to know if I've been drinking. I am completely fine to be the fall guy if that's what it's going to take. I really don't care. But the point is, it's got to feel real to them, and it's got to be something that's crafted in advance. So help them with that. Help them with their strategies of how they're going to get out of that situation if their back's up against the wall. And then the last one is that idea that, besides the isolation that comes from not getting into social groups at home, it is a big deal to be away from your family. And so we need to really show them that there is always support at home. Now, I don't want you to be phoning every 15 minutes and therefore evading talking to other people on campus. And this is maybe one of the downsides of modern technology. I mean, it's so great that we have these iPhones and we can have Facebook time. But if we're on it all the time and you're walking, talking to your mom, and you could be chatting to the other people that are walking to the same class as you, you're missing an opportunity to chat with the in real life people. But at the same time, kids know, like, we are their pillars. We are their safety net. Yes, they've got one foot in adulthood, but they still really want to know that there's terra firma coming from home. So just expressing interest, again, not interrogating, but just like, love you, thinking of you, how you doing? Little touch points like that just are so meaningful and important in terms of a child feeling like they are anchored even though they are away from home. To let them know they can always come to us and talk to us about anything. And whether that's about a mishap that happened, because we know mistakes will happen, they need to know that we're a safe person to come to, even if it involves alcohol. We need to know that we're a safe person if they need to get help and get out of a party and not to get into a car. We can get them help. Even if we live far away, we can figure out how to get an Uber to them. They need to see us as being part of that safety network when they're in distress of any kind. And also to see what the safety elements are that are available right on their campus. And that may be campus security. That may be calling a kids help phone, which, even though it says kids in the title, anyone that wants anonymous help is welcome to call kids help phone. So if you are in a tough situation and you want to get support and you don't want to talk to your parents, at least know that you've got kids help phone across Canada. Most of the universities, I think every university, takes mental health very seriously, and there are people on campus that are free services for students, and they promote this. There's posters all over the place. They do not want to have kids dropping out of university and suffering because of mental health issues. They certainly don't want them turning to alcohol as a coping mechanism. So there are resources on campus, but again, we need to encourage kids, because somehow they can often see that as being like a failure, or they've let people down, or they're embarrassed to do this. And so we have to normalize it. We have to really invite them to say it's a responsible thing to do. Why would you not use the services? So I think between us showing them that we've got their backs at home and virtually, and that they've got on the ground resources, that the university is there to love them up and provide all the support and services that they need, we should be having our kids having a much better experience and not falling into that desperate place of using coping mechanisms and turning to alcohol. So I think this time of year, it's September, back to school, let's promote how much we know that they're going to have a great time, how much they've got support and services around them, how much our family values are going to keep them in a good place, and keep that dialogue open with your kids. Keep that line of communication going. So now's the time to have that conversation with your kids. I'm curious to know what questions have come up for you, what issues have come up for you. Have you got kids that are going off to school this year, either planning, looking at campuses? Have you got people that went off to a new high school this year and maybe they think they got to be in with the cool gang, and alcohol shows up in school groups a lot earlier than parents recognize. I would say that some of the toughest years for my kids actually was grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. Well before when it's often on parents' radars. So it's never too early to talk about alcohol and how to handle that responsibly. So yes, Catherine's been fielding our questions there.
Yeah, we got lots.
Do we? Okay.
Okay, so Susan says hello from Florida. What's the best...
Florida, how are you doing in Florida? We're all thinking of you. Sorry, I had to interrupt there.
She wants to know, what's the best tip to keep your kids talking to you?
Well, I think kids will talk if they feel like they are being heard and validated and not criticized. So being able to hold a non-judgmental space is really super important. And I think you want to do that even when you're not talking about high contentious type topics. When kids are talking about anything, the more you can just try to bite our tongue. As parents, we often want to fix and we want to educate, but it often comes across as preachy. So the more we can try to listen, that whole idea of 2 ears and 1 mouth, try to listen twice as much as talk, and just really hold that non-judgmental space. And it's never about sitting down and having the whole conversation at once. It's about something happening and just lighting into a little bit of a dialogue. And then when you see a lack of interest, pull back, and something else will come up maybe in another couple weeks or in a month. And the other thing we know about communication is that it tends to be better when it is happening against a different backdrop, meaning just like this That's very threatening for kids. But if we are doing something active like raking leaves or throwing a football or walking the dog or driving in the car, that seems to be a safer place for the dialogue to happen simultaneously with some other activity. So I would try a couple of those, and your child will start to feel out that you're a safe person to talk to. Yeah.
Okay. Marie says, my daughter left for college in London just a few weeks ago and hasn't been keeping in contact regularly. I keep leaving messages and not getting responses. My worry is this is new. She's out late. She's perhaps partying. How can I get through this wall when she's ignoring me?
Yeah. So again, a lot of kids will perceive that our check-ins are micromanaging. And so you might find that when she does check in, rather than where were you? I texted you 3 times, which is going to keep the defensiveness up. Be super appreciative when you hear from her. Oh, it's so great to hear from you. And maybe don't ask where were you or what were you up to. Not at the beginning. You might want to just back off on that a little bit. Like, tell me about classes. Are you making new friends? And you can tell their kind of energy. When they start trailing off, then just say, okay, catch you later. I think little swift hits so that they say, actually, that was kind of nice just connecting with my mom. I also find that you can be sort of strategic. My kids really like to talk to me when they are between classes, right? It's like I got to walk across campus, I got a 10-minute hike. And so that's like a way of filling in. So if she's perceiving that you're checking in every night, like, are you going to bed? Are you out partying? It's probably feeling a little bit too like you don't have faith in them. And it's feeling too much like policing, and I would pull back. That's what I would do. Yeah.
Sylvia, she wants to know, and I think we've covered some of this, but how can I start to prepare my son for life on college campus early? It's early for him, but he's asking what are things I can start to prep him with.
Oh, what are things like on campus? Well, like I said, don't watch movies, because they don't depict what life on campus is at all. I think the best thing is for him to talk to other people that actually have kids that are just a little bit older and that have gone through first year, second year. That mentoring that happens, the storytelling. So, can he talk to cousins? Can he talk to friends older siblings, have people for dinner, go to the orientation nights, walk around the campuses, even if it's not the campus that he's going to go to. Like, let's say maybe he's going to one out of state or out of province. Doesn't mean you can't go walking around the ones that are around just to kind of see what the student union's about, what kind of things are happening. You do get kind of a sense of the vibe about it. And then of course there's just all the things about responsibility that we need to help them out with too. Like, you'd be amazed at how many people have gotten to the end of high school and they don't know how to work a washing machine yet. Like, figuring out how to work a coin washing machine. Actually, now they're not even coin washing machines. Mostly they have like the little debit cards or whatever. So it may be that you have to figure out, gee, do you know how to do a load of laundry? So maybe think like a list of the life skills that might be helpful and important to them, and make sure they've had an opportunity to practice those in that last year. And again, always saying, you're going to be great. You're going to be fine. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to get lost. Yeah. And then you'll stop somebody and say, hey, where's the psych building? And they'll say it's over there. And you're fine. So they really want to know that you really have faith in them to not land perfectly, but to stumble through the trials and tribulations that come with, with being on an adventure. That's what it is. It's an adventure, and they're going to be fine. So embody that yourself.
Okay, Tiffany wants to know, what can you do as a parent when they aren't hanging around with the right crowd?
Again, as a parent, if we say, I don't like those people, they're a bad influence, they're very unlikely to heed your advice. I mean, friendships go pretty deep and thick. And I think that we have much more likelihood in helping them see qualities in good friendships by discussing, not don't hang out with those people, they're bad, but by saying, you know what I'm really noticing? Whenever you're with these people, you seem to be more anxious, more angry, more whatever. What qualities do you look for in a friend? How do you know if somebody is a good friend? How do you know if somebody has your back? What kind of a reputation do you want for yourself? I would have much more conversations that are about self-reflective self-awareness. I know all kinds of parents who have made assumptions about what a bad crowd is, and really they were just put off by some bad wardrobe, and they were actually fantastic kids, but they just dressed differently, or they had tattoos, or they had their hair a certain way, and their parents just assumed that they were nasty kids, when in fact they were like big-hearted, lovely, wonderful people that were just into different clothes. So we also have to watch that we don't judge too quickly either, and that we go back to that criteria. If you get a friend who's got your back, I don't care what they're wearing, right? So just eye-opening for us as well.
Okay, I find grade 12 is a real challenge. How can I encourage my kids to get more involved at school?
Yeah, how to get more involved. You know, it's funny that certain things have really changed in high school, and whether that is funding, shift in society, I don't know really where to point the finger on the cause, but you know, I'm not that much older than you folks, but we used to have pep rallies. Like we literally would have assemblies, and some schools are better than that, where everyone's all cheering for the football team, and they have like incredible collegiality and cohesiveness in the school around a sports team or something. So some schools are better than other schools, but if your child is not engaging what's available in school, I think the important thing is that they're engaging in something, and to open opportunities to them to say, well, if you're not getting it on a sports team, you know, maybe you want to be doing like open mic nights at the local cafe, or, you know, maybe your engagement comes online because you're actually now recording your own songs and you're posting them on YouTube, and you've got a following on YouTube, and you chat with your online fans or whatever. Just so long as they've got something that's sort of passionate, that is pro-social, and that they are making some kind of contribution in that way, I think it can look in a whole bunch of different forms. And I'm not necessarily sure that all high schools are doing as good of a job potentially as they could. And again, I think part of it's funding. I think part of it is school cultures have changed, and they might need to find it outside of school. Yeah.
So here's a good follow-up question.
Yeah.
Jen says a lot of parents believe that when our kids are heavily involved in extracurricular activities outside of the school, they're less likely to get in trouble and end up with the wrong crowd. Is there any basis to this?
So I'm going to say like that. I'm sure I have read research, but I can't say this journal, this page, this whatever, to be able to substantiate that. So I could certainly go away and we could all Google it. That's a great thing about Google now, you know, because you can actually go to the research tab and pull that out. I think that, you know, we know that kids that are socially embedded, that have a sense of purpose and meaning in their life, who feel appreciated and seen, don't turn to the negative side of life. So what we see is that we all need a place to belong and feel important. And if we will first go to pro-social ways of getting it, which might be like, you know, the being in a musical or being in the band. But in the absence of getting it through pro-social means, we still have to fulfill that need. So how do I become significant and important and connected? If I can't find it in the pro-social way, I end up getting in gangs. I end up showing my significance by showing that I can get the biggest drug deal, or, you know, I can have the most outrageous stunt that's, you know, some death-defying act or whatever. And so there's still the need to accomplish it. It's just whether they do it in a way that is constructive to society, or whether it's harmful to themselves and others, and not constructive. So I think that when we point kids' toes in the right direction, open up those opportunities and plug them into the right outlets, we have an increased likelihood in them succeeding in all elements of what's being called upon them, including the demand of being an academic. So where's the research on that? I'll have to do some digging, but I'm sure it'll support me. Yeah.
How do you teach your teenager to start saving money? I want her to make good choices with her spending, but if she has it, she spends it.
Yeah. Great question. I do some work with Bank of Montreal on a talk called The Bank of Mom and Dad. So part of it really, if you think about it, is making sure that we don't rescue our kids such that when they make bad choices, and I say bad choices, but the truth is the best way to learn about money is by making mistakes with money. So, you know, if you've got a kid who's 6 years old and they lose their allowance or leave it in their pocket and it gets lost in the laundry, don't replace it. What better way to teach the lesson that money is finite? If you say don't lose your money and then you replace it, that you haven't taught them anything. You've actually told them that it's not finite. Your mom will come bail you out. So I think that it's very difficult as parents to say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Here you are, and it's only the 13th of the month, and you've already used up your entire food allowance for September. wow, you are in like a tough spot. I don't know how you'll figure that out. But I've given you my food allowance for the month, and you're gonna have to figure it out. Now they might borrow from a friend. They might suddenly get a job serving tables. They might even go to grandma for a loan. But the point is, I am going to require them to make the adaptation, have the learning moment, rather than me rescuing. So it's just a lot more lessons along the way. So right now, think about what those lessons might be pre going off to university. And I also think we can break things down into smaller chunks and try to help them. So I do think that if you've got a kid away from home, you might find it easier, rather than putting them on a monthly allowance, to say, here is your $400 card for Metro groceries, because you can't take your Metro grocery card and you can't go spend it at the beer store, right? So you can't spend it on gas for your car. You can't spend it on a lot of things. So that might be an easier way to put money into buckets and help kids stay on a budget that you've helped go over in terms of you discussing how much you're willing to contribute to their cost of living or whatever. So those are lessons. She'll figure them out. Just don't rescue.
Linda has a 16-year-old with high-functioning autism. What are your best tips or resources to help with social interaction?
Well, of course, I don't know. I've met so many kids on the spectrum, and even within high functioning, there's quite a large range. What I can tell you is that there are all kinds of people that can happily socialize and engage with a whole range of people, and it's really, again, about experimenting with exposure. Is it people on your block? Is it people in a swim club? If you only go to one experience and it doesn't go well and you stop, you're not going to have much luck. But when you just continue to plow on, there are people everywhere. You might find out that kid has a common interest in looking after little kids, and they get along really great with little kids. It doesn't matter if your 16-year-old is suddenly being social with a 12-year-old or an 8-year-old, and they all love to dog walk or something together, just so long as there's social engagement. So I think it's largely a sort of a trial and error, and you being very attuned into what types of peoples and what types of environments your child thrives and where people have a good time interacting. So just don't give up. How are we doing here?
We're good. We got a
few more? Okay.
Yeah. David just wants to know, he says his son is in football. Mm-hmm. It's hard to get him to talk about anything other than sports, yet he is concerned that there is some drinking happening amongst the team. Suggestions that it might work for speaking to an 18-year-old boy who doesn't want to talk.
Yeah. Well, it is true that we have this idea that, if our kids are in sports, then they're going to be healthy and then they're going to stay away from alcohol. And yet we find out that a lot of the background culture to a lot of sports is also, you play the game hard, but then you also party hard. So there is culture. And again, that's very difficult, because how do you end up saying, I really want to be on the team, but I don't want to succumb I've got this peer pressure to drink. And again, I'll just restate it. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but parents, don't throw your hands up in the air and say, oh yeah, well, they're into football or hockey, they're going to drink. It's really not the truth. That parental expectations still trump peer pressure. And I'm telling you, this is backed in research. So hang in there. You do have influence. In terms of getting them to talk, they may not talk back to you. They may not share everything that's going on, but again, it wouldn't necessarily be interrogating them. I think what's important is that we continue to send those little touch point moments of faith and trust, and that knowing how difficult it is in their generation, that this is all around them, and saying, we certainly know that the numbers show that the closer you get to the drinking age, the more likely kids are to drink, and the more alcohol is going to be present. So we know how tough and challenging it is. But then just, hey, have a good time at the party tonight. Well, you know how we feel about underage drinking when we trust you to live by the family rules. So, okay, good night, talk to you later. So it doesn't have to be like a sit down, we need to have the talk again tonight. It can just be something that you say in passing. I think proving that you are that non-judgmental, I don't know. Let me see if I can say it this way. Imagine that you say to your kids, well, you can come to us and talk to us about anything. But then your kid comes and says, like, they failed a test, or your kid comes to you and they say that they just, bumped the fender of the family car, and you freak out on them. Now you got a kid who says, why would I ever believe that it's going to be okay for me to talk to you about drinking and my drinking behavior, or when you can't even handle a bad mark on a report card, you can't handle a scratched car bumper. So I think that even when we're outside the topic of drinking, we have to show our kids with every interaction that we want to say to them, I'm a trusted person. I will not punish you. Thank you for telling me the truth. It took a lot of courage for you to come tell me that. We have to really keep our calm when we get conversations like that. So it isn't something just about drinking. It is about throughout the whole relationship, proving experientially in the ways we react and respond that we are somebody safe to talk to. Yeah.
Okay. Kristen says we're having a hard time getting used to the alarm. It goes off and nobody moves. They're 9 and 7.
Yeah.
Suggestions?
Yeah. I know. So first of all, we want kids to get enough sleep. So most kids in this generation are missing almost a full hour of sleep. So I would go Google how many hours of sleep for a 7 and 9, was it?
Yeah.
7 and 9. Make sure that they're getting enough sleep, because getting a tired kid up is a completely different story than getting an awake kid up. So the first thing is make sure they're getting enough sleep. Second thing is to have that conversation with them and say, actually, the alarm is something that is your responsibility to learn to listen to. And the only way that you're going to figure that out is if you tell yourself that it's your responsibility, and if I let you figure that out on your own. If you come to know that I'm always going to wake you up, you're not going to tune your ear. Think about it as like when you were a baby, we used to have to put up a little rail so you wouldn't fall out of bed, because you had to figure out proprioception of your arm when you rolled over. You go, oh, I'm at the edge of the bed, I got to roll back over. Or, you know, in the evening when your bladder would be full, you'd say, oh, my bladder is full, but I got to control my my sphincter muscles or else I'm going to wet the bed. And part of it is, oh, there's the alarm. The only person that has to hear the alarm is me. I can't rely on my parents. So it's training. It's brain training. And the only way you can do brain training is if I let you practice. And the only way I can let you practice is if I don't wake you up. So I would literally just don't wake them up, and you might have to like make plans for, you know, an earlier start to the morning or a later start to getting to work, and you can bang around in the kitchen and turn on music and start your breakfast or whatever. But I would make that pledge. The only way to learn is got to start somewhere. You'll figure it out. Just have faith and move along, and they will figure it out if you withdraw your services.
Okay, we got lots more, but maybe we can do one more and then we can answer some.
Yes, because for people that are putting in comments, you know, your name is being entered into a draw, but we also have an opportunity for people to participate in a survey, because it's really important feedback for me on how we're doing with our chats. And for those people that are able to participate in our survey, and it's very fast, 3 minutes. It's 3 minutes. You do have to have kids under the age of 22, and you do have to be from Canada. But if you are one of the first 100 people to complete that survey and you qualify, then your name will be put in a draw for a $250 Visa gift certificate. So that's pretty good odds. 1 in 100 chances of getting $250 gift card. So I'll answer another question if you're going to put up the link to the survey, and then and then the other questions I'm happy to get back to you and type some questions, because I really appreciate people joining the conversation. So I don't want to cut you short.
So here's a great one. If we foot the bill for our kids' smartphones, is it okay to snoop and look at their chats, or to make sure there's no risky behaviors?
Just because you pay for the phone doesn't mean that you can violate their privacy. I don't think that's how supervision works. I think it is fair to say that freedoms and responsibilities go hand in hand. And so you need to show me that if you're going to have a phone, whether it's paid for or not, just as a parent, your job is to keep them safe. So if you'd like to have the freedom of using a phone, you need to show me good digital citizenship. And if you're incapable or unwilling to let me do spot checks to prove that you are using your good citizenship and being responsible with your phone, then you don't need to have the privilege of the phone, and we'll take the phone away. So I would make it part and parcel of the contract. So it's not that you're not checking, but it's just the premise by which you say it, because I think it feels there's too much of a power play when you say, I pay for it, therefore I can invade your privacy. Well, you know, just because you pay for the mortgage doesn't mean you can read your kid's diary either. So I think it's how you pose it. I think it's how you frame it, that you have a job to keep them safe, and that safety comes from supervision, and that's very different than snooping. And the more they prove to you through having successful spot checks that they're not being inappropriate, the less you need to check, because they're proving themselves. And I think that's really important, that you say, hey, you know what, that's pretty amazing. I've checked your phone for the last 6 months and everything's been right, top of order. That's a pretty darn good record, can I tell you? Because nobody's perfect. We've all said things we wish we could take back. We've all had hissy fits and fights that we probably wouldn't want our parents to see. So, you know, they're I think, just really honor and pay attention to when they are being good digital citizenships, and you will get more of what you pay attention to. So the more you acknowledge good behavior, the more good behavior you'll get. So we'll make that our parting comment. Of course, if you've enjoyed this, please share it with your friends. It will be archived and it'll stay on my feed. So it is shareable. People can go back and look at it. That link will stay up for a while, and I'll jump on and type answers, because I know a lot of people, we didn't get to everybody's questions. I really super enjoy the fact that people were engaging with us, and that's what this whole thing is about, is community, helping each other, helping our kids. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you at our next one. Thanks for participating. Bye.